Ara?
We have Chili and Tanya and Julia.
Okay, well, as Professor Marston was saying earlier, it has turned to spring all of a sudden. So now if you can see out my window, I'll have to look just a moment. Oh, you can't. Oh dear. Let me see if I can give you a view. It's quite beautiful. It's a lovely day. We have tree flowering right next door and right outside.
Oh,
it's
nice.
Quite sunny. Yeah, it's quite a nice day. It's been very rainy, so it's a nice change. They say April showers bring May flowers. It's an expression. Sorry, I know that everyone can hear me typing. But April showers bring May flowers, so there's already some, and hopefully there will be even more. But let's see. So there's 3 of you so far. And oh, it's cold, Tanya. How sad. Oh, Tanya, I think there's maybe a problem with your audio. So while you work on that, Julia, can you say hello so I can hear and see?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
The audio is good. And Chili or Ira? Yes, it's a little quiet. It's a little quiet, but I can hear you.
I'm not sure I can. Can you say something again, please? Can you hear me?
Louder.
Yes, can you make your mic louder?
Yes, no problem. It's true. I think maybe I heard something else, but Tanya and Ira, we still have problems with your microphones.
And so, is it a secret? What is Chili Willie's real name?
Chili Willie. Chili Willie is Irat.
Oh, good. So, we've met Irat. It's confusing to me, but I will manage to cope. I have a lot of trouble with Russian diminutive names, but I know that's not a Russian diminutive name, so I must be doing something right. So on your screen, you will see the evidence of my spring. This is one of my cats, and he loves nothing more than to find a patch of dirt so that he can roll in it. And so this is my cat Flash rolling in a dirt wallow. Wallow is a word you might like. Wallowing in self-pity or feeling sorry for yourself. If I can type, I will write it. So this is my cat, you'll see, is almost white. He's very light buff color.
Mm-hmm.
So when he comes in, he has to have a bath. He has his own door and he can go in and out pretty much when he wants.
Your chats are just going to meet Professor Marston.
So it looks like Professor Marston has the opposite of Irat's cat. So Professor Marston, your cat is white and he gets dirty and black. But Irat, you said that your cat is black and she turns white.
Different colored dirt, obviously.
Ah, yes. Yes.
Well, I have a nearly black cat as well, and but she doesn't like to roll in the dirt. And when it comes time for class, see if I can show you this. Can you see my sleeping cat? And here's the other sleeping cat, I hope. They're both in here next to my computer because, of course, they're night creatures. Were you able to see them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, enough about cats.
So Ira, do you have you worked on your connection? Is your microphone working now?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you. Okay, Tanya, your mic?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's quiet. It's quiet. Either maybe speak loudly, or if there is a volume for your microphone, maybe increase it, but we can.
On the volume, but it's okay now?
Yeah.
Better?
Much better.
Better. Much
Yeah.
better.
Okay.
Julia, we could hear. What about Yekaterina? Do you have a microphone, Yekaterina? I think she's just joining. Okay, we'll come back to Yekaterina in a moment, but let me see. We have Nadia. Nadia, are you there?
Yes, hello.
Oh, excellent. We do have audio. And Yekaterina said hello, so she can hear me. Do you have a microphone, Yekaterina? Is your microphone working? It's muted right now. I can unmute it, of course. Yekaterina, are you there?
Yep.
But we can't hear her. We can't hear you, Yekaterina. Are you speaking? I'm not sure.
Someone is speaking, but not.
Yes. Well, and her.
Looks like she has to turn on her mic. Katja, can you turn on your video, please?
No, we can't hear you. Can you click the red button to unmute your mic?
Katya, can you say something? No? Katya, can you hear me? 1, 2, 3. Is that Katya? Katya, I can see you. Can you hear me? Katya, can you wave your hand if you hear me? Wave your hand if you hear me. Okay.
She can hear us.
Good. All right. Let's see. Do we have your? Go ahead and try saying something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I see her lips moving, but she's, yeah, it's not coming through. Okay. Well, Yekaterina will work on her audio. And in the meantime, I have a warm-up for us.
A warm-up?
Yes, I think that there's a picture.
Aha.
Professor Lero, it's the one called Fingers Crossed.
Ah, there it is. Fingers crossed.
Okay.
So first, I wonder if this is something that would be a gesture you might understand in Russia. Do you know what this signifies?
This symbol? What is this symbol?
Behind your back. You have to hold it behind your back.
Behind your back. Well, if I do it behind my back, they can't see me, so.
Well, yeah.
Like this.
Yeah. What's that mean? Yes, what's it mean?
What does this mean?
I guess it means that a person could lie.
Ah. Do they have that same symbol in Russia?
Yes, but we don't use it often. Too often.
Well, because we don't lie.
Yeah, we are honest.
Yeah, we're honest. There are. Okay. All right. Well. Good. Good, Nadia.
So now that you understand this symbol, or now that you have told us that you understand it, we have a game called Fact or Fiction.
Fact or fiction?
What is a fact? What is a fact? Does anyone know what a fact is?
Means that something is real. What we are saying is true, it's happened, or if you're saying about a person, this person in fact exists in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So we're going to play a game, and it's called Fact or Fiction, and you're going to tell a story. Each of us will tell a story, 3 to 5 sentences. Okay. So a very short story. It could even be 1 sentence. That's fine too. And everyone will listen, and you'll have to tell me if you think, or tell the whole group, if you think this story is fact or fiction. Okay, so I have a story to give you an example. So one day I was riding my bike here in the city of St. Louis, Missouri, and I was going to go study. So I had my laptop and books, my textbooks in my backpack, and I did not know the city very well. I was there for the summer because I studied in another city, and as I was biking through the city, I got to a very bad part of town, and all of a sudden, a man came and he pointed a gun at me and he said, you know, give me your backpack, stop. So of course I didn't want to get shot, so I stopped and I got off my bike, and he took my backpack and my laptop, and he took my bike, and I was very lucky. He didn't shoot me, and I walked back home, and I was really scared, so I called my husband, who's a police officer, and he came and helped me. So, what do you think, fact or fiction? I thought so. This is a fact. What do the rest of you think? Julia agrees. Tanya also agrees. Oh, Joe thinks it's fiction. Professor Leo says fiction. Yekaterina says, no, I can't be sure it's fiction. And Professor Marston also says it's fiction. Well, I will say it was fiction. I was lying. I did get lost. I did get lost in a very bad part of town, and I was riding my bike, and I did have all of my books with me. But I biked very quickly, and I did not stop, and no one pulled a gun on me. So I finally got to where I was going, and I was safe. So it was only a little bit of fact and mostly fiction.
Oh.
Okay. So now I think, yes, go ahead, Professor Marston.
I have a little story, and since I've been talking about my cat, I'll tell you about another cat. I had a cat who lived to be 21 years old.
21 years old?
Yes.
Impossible. Impossible.
So, what do you think?
Professor Lero says fiction. Nadia also says fiction. Yes. Nadia, make sure you reply to everyone so that everyone can see. Yekaterina says fact.
Fiction, fiction, fiction.
I think this has got to be fiction. 21 years. That's a long time.
That's a long time for a cat.
Enough to vote. 21 years old. If my cat were human, she could have voted.
Mm-hmm.
But because she was a cat, she preferred to judge.
So, Professor Marston, fact or fiction?
True.
It's fact.
Oh my, really? Whoa.
Okay. Name was Sissy.
Okay. I'll tell you my story, okay? So in less than 2 months, my wife and I will have been married for 50 years. That's true. But you say, and she is the great love of my life. And here's the rest of the story. I met her one day, and the next day I asked her to marry me. I met my wife one day, and the next day I asked her to marry me.
That's an interesting story. There's lots of division. I don't know, so there's fiction. Not just a fiction. I think it has to be fiction. Yekaterina, fiction. Professor Marston's like, Julia, maybe it's a fact? It could be true. Yes, John, it could be true. So
are there no romantics out there? Are you simply so jaded by the modern world? Well, truth is that no, it took me about a year to ask her to marry me.
And can you show us a picture of your wedding day? You have that at hand?
I can. Let me. You all talk. Let me see if I can find it down here. I can't. I do have a wedding picture. Where in the world would that be? Keep talking. Let me look for it.
Okay. So while Professor Lero looks, we will continue with your fact or fiction. So Irat, do you have a story ready for us? And you will guess.
Oh, I'm bad at lying.
Oh, what a setup. Now we know we're going to believe what he says.
Maybe you can come back to me later. I'll think of something.
For us, your fact or fiction.
Oh, here we go. Okay, I've got. Here we go. Let's see, I'm pulling up June wedding. Okay, there we go. Whoa. Look at that. Can all of you see that?
Oh.
June wedding. There I am. Yep,
I like Mrs. Lero's hair.
Well, I was a lieutenant in the Air Force, a very young lieutenant. And we got married. There we are. Beautiful.
Romantic picture.
Yeah, that's romantic enough.
Did she have Lily of the Valley in her bouquet?
Yeah, she had Lily of the Valley, and she had coral roses. They're called coral roses. And coral roses are kind of a pink color, rosy color. And for a while, I would try to find those roses to give them to her as an anniversary gift. And they're very hard to find. Now I'm content just to give her pink roses on our anniversary, on our wedding anniversary. Let's see, I may have another picture here. Let me see, just a moment. Yeah, here's another one. Oh, look at this. This is June wedding 2. Now, you have to see, we were I was a young lieutenant, and these are some of my fellow officers. And the tradition at a military wedding is that the bride and the groom walk through an arch formed of sabers. Yeah. So there we are. True love.
I love this picture. And so, are you planning a big celebration?
I don't know. I think our children are planning something.
50 is an important anniversary, of course.
It is. It is.
And you can see the lily of the valley. I have loaded a picture called Lily of the Valley because I think that you will recognize this plant if you go anywhere outside.
Mm-hmm. Now, somebody, is this called a landische in Russian?
Oh, I think that's right.
Is that right?
Oh, Tanya, your microphone is muted, Tanya.
What?
Is the name of this flower landische?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Landish.
Landish.
Yes.
I think in German it's Landish.
Mm-hmm. 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 Well, Tanya, have you thought of your story, or fact or fiction?
Yeah, I'll try.
Okay, go ahead.
It was one day of April, first day of April, April Fool's Day. So I woke up and watched over the window. It was snow all over the road and at about -5. So people thought it's an April's joke of the weather. But what do you think? Was it true or not?
Wait, what was the date of the snow?
1st of April this year.
This year.
This year.
April Fool.
Yeah. I'll say that.
Russian people know it's true. It was really snow on the screen.
Oh dear. Sigh. No flowers yet, but they'll come. They'll come.
We're waiting for them.
Okay, thank you, Tanya. Yulia, have you got a story for us, fact or fiction?
Yes, my friend, she wanted to lose her weight very much. And when she began, she didn't eat and went to training center, and she became very thin like a boat. And then she became very ill, and her husband left her for other woman, very fat. Is it true or false?
Oh, I hope it's
Story.
false.
Fact or fiction? Well, I hope it's false too. Oh. But it might be true. It's one of those things.
I think it's true. I think it's true.
Professor Lero has a very maybe jaded or realistic view of men.
One or the other.
Arat hasn't said anything. What do you think, Arat? Fact or fiction? He thinks it's fiction. So, Yulia, what is the truth of the matter? Fact or fiction?
fiction.
Oh,
Oh,
thank goodness. But did you have a friend who went to a gym, or was it all fiction?
Yes, but
The whole thing. Oh.
yes, she tried to lose her way, but her husband didn't leave.
Oh, good. It was a very good, convincing story. Okay, we'll see. Ekaterina, do you have audio yet? Do you have a microphone? Ah, no, not yet. Okay, we'll come back and see if Ekaterina has audio in a minute. Nadia, are you there?
Yes.
Do you have a story for us, fact or fiction?
Yes, I'll try.
Okay.
My sister got married this summer, and the next day of her wedding, she lost her wedding certificate. And when she and her husband went to the honeymoon, he lost his ring. That is all.
Oh.
A wife to lose.
I think that must be true.
that's got to be true. Yeah, that's true.
Oh man, I don't know. A wedding certificate and a ring both lost? You did tell it very convincingly, but I think it must be fact.
It's got to be true. It's got to be true.
If it's true, we hope that they have someone to follow them around to keep track of their belongings.
So, Nadia, fact or fiction?
It was true.
Oh,
that's terrible.
Oh dear. Oh, that is.
Listen, Nadia. It sounds to me like maybe your sister didn't want to be married.
No, she wouldn't, but
Yeah.
some facts just,
All right. Yeah.
just happen.
Yep, it's true. Sometimes things just happen. Okay, we'll come back to Ayrat. Ayrat, have you thought of a story? Yeah.
Okay, so I used to work as a stage boy at the music festival. It is called Creation of Peace, and we had to pick up Keith Emerson then from the airport, and we picked them up. We loaded their baggage into the van. Then we ourselves got into the van, and while we were driving, someone called me, and at the time I used Red Hot Chili Peppers song Californication as my ringtone, and someone called me, it started ringing, and Keith said, "Now I know what we are going to play on the sound check." And later that night they did it. Fact or fiction.
Oh, that's convincing. That's good.
That is
That's
convincing.
Yeah.
That's good. That's convincing.
I
I'm
want
going
that
to
to
say
be
that's
true.
fact.
I think so too.
Red Hot Chili Peppers. Yeah.
Oh, Nadia and Yulia are doubters. So now it can't be true.
So
It's true though.
yeah. So are you really that cool that you have Red Hot Chili Peppers on your ringtone?
Everything in that story is true except one thing. He didn't say that we should play this song, but they played it anyway. It was a coincidence.
Oh, everything else is true. Wow. That's amazing. That's a great story. Okay, and yes, fact is stranger than fiction. Oh, how true that's a good saying in English. Yeah, fact is stranger than fiction. Okay, Yekaterina, have you got Mike yet? No. Oh,
No, Mike.
how sad. She has it typed on it. Oh.
All right, so we'll do it by time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here's Katya's story.
Everybody has to tell their stories. Everyone votes. It's true. It's false.
We need that kind of music building up suspense. Oh, you picked mushrooms on the 29th of December. Wow.
So,
29th of December. No, they don't grow. No, they don't grow. False. Fiction. Fiction.
I don't know. It depends on where it could have been.
Yeah, where were you?
I think it might be fact. If you weren't in Russia, but it depends on where you were. Someone else says it's fiction. But if you're in the south of the United States, for example, it can be quite warm. You picked them at the supermarket. That could be possible. So, Yekaterina, fact or fiction? Where were you that you picked mushrooms on the 29th of December?
In the forest.
In Russia.
In Russia. Very warm December. Very warm December and snow on April Fool's Day.
Yekaterina, do you have audio? I think I heard your typing. Can you say something? No. I heard someone typing, and I was hoping it was you because I saw you typing. In 2005, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, good. Well, thank you all very much. And
yes.
Thank you all very much. Let's see. First thing I want to say is that I appreciated your entries in the blog and your list of words. It was a good list of words, and there are kind of no surprises in there because some of these words even sound strange to Americans because people often don't use these words. The story is old, but even if you don't understand all the words, you can still perfectly well understand the story. Mm-hmm. So let's look at the story and read it and talk about it as we go and make observations. And if you have questions as we go, raise those questions. Katya, you go ahead and put them in chat. And then at the end, when we finish reading it, we'll go back and we will analyze the story using the little outline that we used. Tanya, you had asked, you wanted to be assigned form. That's good. And others of you will assign you different parts of the template, characters and point of view and time and that sort of thing. Okay. So that said, The Story of an Hour. The Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin. Who'd like to start reading? Chili Willy? Idot? How about if you start? Would you?
Okay.
Read the first couple paragraphs.
How do I stress her name? Mallard or Millard?
What, please?
How do I stress her name? Mallard, Mrs. Mallard or Millard?
Mallard. Mallard. Okay. And as long as you asked, you know what mallard is?
Not really, no.
This is a mallard. Do you see it?
Oh, it's a male duck.
It's a male duck. Mallard. Well, this is a male mallard, and there's also a female mallard. Here's the female mallard. Okay. And the male and the female look very different from each other. I thought. Why the male is very beautiful and colorful. How about the female? She's pretty bland. Why is that?
Because usually in nature, male species is the one who needs to get other who needs to get attention from a female, so he needs to be beautiful, strong, so he can show by his appearance that he's a suitable partner for that guy.
Yeah, kind of like this. Talk, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's what I thought you were going to say. Okay. Well, good. So and it's pronounced Mallard. Mallard, and it's a surname, a family name. I don't think it's very common, but it's not unusual. It's not unusual. Okay. So go ahead.
Knowing that Mrs. Mallard was afflicted with a heart trouble, great care was taken to break to her as gently as possible the news of her husband's death. It was her sister Josephine who told her in broken sentences, veiled hints that revealed in half concealing. Her husband's friend Richard was there, too, near her. It was she who had been in the newspaper office when intelligence of the railroad disaster was received, with Brantley Mallard's name leading the list of killed. He had only taken the time to assure himself of its truth by a second telegram, and had hastened to forestall any less careful, less tender friend in bearing the sad message.
Okay, good. Now so far we have met almost all of the characters in the story. We have Mrs. Mallard, right, and her
Yes.
sister Josephine, and her husband's friend Richards. What do you think? Is Richards? Is that a name or a surname? Email or familia?
Second name, family name.
This is the family name, right? And now Richard is a first name, but Richards is often a family name. So good for you. All right, and then we have 1, 2, 3 characters so far, and who do we have here?
Mrs. Mallard's husband, Brantley Mallard.
Brantley Mallard, and I have to tell you that Brantley is a very unusual first name. So we have kind of unusual names here. I don't know if do you think that's significant at all, Professor Marston?
I think it's an old-fashioned name that might be the name of a Southern gentleman.
Southern gentleman, okay.
Yeah.
Could be. Idot, did you understand all of the language here? Anything you didn't understand?
Yes, I understood everything.
Everything. What's a broken sentence?
Well, it is like this.
Good. So unfinished, incomplete, stumble. I don't know, what's a veiled hint?
It's something that is not revealed openly. A hint is when you say something, not saying it outright. You're implying something, and the person needs to get the meaning by himself.
So, Idot, if I said to you, oh, Idot, I have some terrible, terrible news to tell you, tragic news. Or if I said to you, oh, Idot, I have something to tell you, I think you should sit down.
The second one is the real hint.
The second one is the veiled hint. The second one is the veiled hint. And how about this? That it had been in the newspaper office when the intelligence of the railroad disaster was received. All right. And he assured himself of the truth by a second telegram. So we're talking about a railroad disaster, and he learned about it at the newspaper office, and he verified it with a telegram. What's missing in all of this, Idot? What would we do today?
Today we would phone or get a text message.
Today we would phone or get a text message, or today we would, and we wouldn't get it at the newspaper office. I don't even know where the newspaper office is in my city. But in 1894, the newspaper office would have been the high technology of its day. Good. Nicely done. Thank you very much. Katya. Oh, Katya, you can't read. Can you or not? No? Not yet. Tatiana.
Okay. She didn't hear the story, as many women have heard the same, with a paralyzed inability to accept its significance. She wept at once with sudden, wild abandonment of her sister's arms. And as a storm of grief expanded itself, she went away to her room alone. She would have no one follow her. There stood, facing the open window, a comfortable, roomy armchair. Into this she sank, pressed down by a physical exhaustion that haunted her body and seemed to reach into her soul.
Keep going. You're doing great.
She could see in the open square before her house the tops of trees that were all aglow with a new spring light. The delicious breath of rain was in the air. In the street below, a peddler was crying his wares. The notes of a distant song, which someone was singing, reached her faintly, and countless sparrows were twittering in the eaves.
Well, go ahead and finish the page.
There were patches of blue sky shown here and there through the clouds that had met and piled one above the other in the west facing her window.
Good. Okay. Good. So, she did not hear the story as many women have heard the same, with paralyzed inability. That means she would have heard this story and would have been shocked into silence. But she wept at once, the writer says, with a sudden, wild abandonment. What does that mean? What do you think that means, Tanya? Sudden, wild abandonment.
I guess she didn't want to accept this fact that her husband has died. She was shocked and frozen a bit, I can say so. Abandonment is, she didn't want to accept this.
Wild abandonment. She was panic-stricken. She was screaming. You lost your wedding license? You lost your wedding ring? Ah! Wild abandonment. It was a storm. It was a storm of grief. She went away to her room alone. She would have no one to follow her. She would let no one follow her. And she stood facing the open window, and she's seeing the open square, the trees that were all a quiver. What is a quiver, Tanya?
Oh, I've translated this word. I know how to say it in Russian.
Quiver, leaves will quiver in the wind. They kind of shake. Spring life.
Tremble.
Yeah.
Tremble. And you mentioned this in your post. You didn't understand a peddler. Do you understand now?
Yeah, I understand it now. I found it in a Cambridge dictionary that it's a person who in the past traveled from place to place trying to sell some small objects. But now that it means a person who sells illegal drugs.
Who sells what?
Who sells illegal drugs.
Illegal drug peddler. Yeah. Good for you. Very good. A peddler. You can also be a peddler of tales. Oh, don't listen to him. He's a peddler of tales. That means he just tells stories. And this crying his wares, well, it's not the same kind of crying. It's not the same kind of crying. It's not weeping. It's like crying as in shouting out. Old lamps for new, Scissors. We have scissors for sale. We have scissors for sale. Scissors for sale. Crying his wares. Crying his wares.
And wares are things that he has to sell.
Mm-hmm. So you have like if you have things like a hammer and a screwdriver and screws and nails, you call that class of stuff hardware. Hardware. And of course, all of you know about software and hardware on your computer. That's the same ware. It's like a product. It's a product, something to be sold. Okay? So far so good. So far so good. Nicely done. Now let's look at some more of this. Oh, there he is again. A good looking guy. Okay. All right. Tanya, thank you. Nadia, would you read for us a little bit?
Yes. She sat with her head thrown back upon the cushion on the chair, quite motionless, except when the sob came on into her throat and shook her, as a child who has cried herself to sleep continues to sob in its dreams. She was young, with a fair, calm face. Those lines bespoke repression and even a certain strength. But now there was a doubt there in her eyes, whose gaze was fixed away off yonder on one of those patches of blue sky. It was not a glance of reflection, but rather indicated a suspension of intelligent thought.
Go ahead.
There was something coming to her, and she was waiting for it, fearfully. What was it? She didn't know. It was too subtle and elusive to name, but she felt it, creeping out of the sky, reaching toward her through the sound, the scent, the color that filled the air.
Good. Okay, good. Let's see. Did you understand everything here? More or less? Yeah?
More or less, yes.
What did you understand less?
It was difficult to understand the description of the sky.
Of the sky, okay, good, all right. The description of the sky. How about this word here, yonder? Do we know what yonder means? Nadia's buffering. Nadia, do you have, I think we're losing your signal. Nadia, can you hear me? Yulia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, Nadia, how about yourself? I think we're buffering Nadia. Okay, well, so we're talking about the sky. We're talking about the sky. This is a kind of transition part of the story. Yulia, what does yonder mean? Did you figure out what yonder means?
I didn't understand what you wanted.
Yonder is like is over there, is far away. Yonder. Daleko, something like that. Yonder, and it's an old word, and it's used a lot in the West. Cowboys talk about riding off yonder, going off.
Archaism, no?
Huh?
It's archaism, no?
Well, yes and no. It's an archaism generally, but it's still used today. But in the West, in Texas, we use this word all the time. Yonder. Where did you see him? Oh, I saw him yonder. It depends on the dialect. All right. It's not.
We don't hear it in Iowa.
You don't hear it in Iowa. We hear it in Texas all the time. How about in St. Louis? Do you hear it in St. Louis?
Around here, we would think much more of Amish or Mennonite people. They'd be more likely to use it, but it's not very common.
Not very common, but it's completely understandable.
Certain groups of people. Yes, yeah. It's definitely understandable.
Very understandable. All right. So she's sitting in the chair, and here we have a little description about her. She's young, but then we start talking about the blue sky, and we start talking about something creeping out of the sky, reaching toward her through the sounds, the scents, and the color that fill the air. Right? So something is going on here. Nadia, did you ever get, are you back?
I think, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You were buffering before. I don't know what happened. Okay. Did you hear our description about what's going on here? Right.
Yes,
so
I could hear.
these 3 paragraphs tell you that something has changed. Something is going on. Before we had a lot of action and dialogue, and now there's a kind of the movement in the story has dipped, and now we're going to start up again. Yulia, you about ready to read? How about right here? Now her bosom.
Now her bosom rose and fell tumultuously. She was beginning to.
Here, I'm gonna help you. Tumultuously. Tumultuously. Okay, go ahead.
She was beginning to recognize this thing that was approaching to possess her, and she was striving to beat it back with her will, as powerless as her 2 white friendly hands would have been. When she abandoned herself, a little whispered word escaped her slightly parted lips. She said it over and over under her breath. Free, free, free. The vacant stare and the look of terror that had followed it went from her eyes. They stayed keen and bright. Her pulses beat fast, and the coursing blood warmed and relaxed every inch of her body. She didn't stop to ask if it were or weren't a monstrous joy that held her. A clear and exalted perception enabled her to dismiss the suggestion as trivial. She knew that she would weep again when she saw the kind, tender hands folded in death, the face that had never looked safe with love upon her, fixed and grey and dead. But she saw beyond that bitter moment a long procession of years to come that would belong to her absolutely, and she opened and spread her arms out to them in welcome.
Whoa, 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 whoa. So, let's see, Yulia, is there anything besides the word tumultuously? Anything else? Tumult. A tumult is kind of like there's a tumult in Crimea. That's a tumult. There's just this great energy and action and everything shaking up and down. Tumult, tumultuously. Very dramatic word. Anything else you didn't understand in here?
Well, monstrous joy. It's when it's very
monstrous.
Abnormal joy. Abnormal joy.
Where's
yes.
I don't. Where's monstrous
joy that felt?
Oh, there it is. A monstrous joy.
It's abnormal, and I didn't understand.
What do you think it means in this context? What do you think it means?
Abnormal, abnormal, no?
A great joy, a great joy. It's not like a monster. It's from the same root as monster, But this is, and maybe it's called monstrous joy because in this context, in the context of her husband's death, joy would be a kind of an unwelcome emotion to feel. Huh? Joy would be an emotion. How about this? What about this? She knew that she would weep again, so she's feeling this joy. Huh? She's feeling this joy. She's saying, "Free, free, free." Woohoo! Free, free, free. Her husband was just killed, and she's saying, "Free, free, free." Monstrous joy. It's like it doesn't fit. It's not normal. She knew that she would weep again when she saw the kind, tender hands folded in death. Kind, tender hands folded in death. Do you know what that means? You know, when someone has died and they're in a coffin, their hands are folded like this. Their hands are folded. So that's what that means. The face that never looked save with love upon her. Here, in this context, save means accept. She knew that the face that every time he looked at her, he never looked on her except with love. Okay? So, but beyond that bitter moment, a long procession of years to come that would belong to her absolutely. And she opened and spread her arms out in welcome, like a big embrace. She's embracing this. So we have these two images. We have his kind, tender hands folded in death. And up here in the earlier paragraph, we have her two white, slender hands. Two white, slender hands, his kind, tender hands folded in death. Two images of hands. Two images of hands. Images of hands. Good. Okay, so here's the last part of the story. Let's go back to you again. Okay.
There would be no one to live for during the coming years. She would live for herself. There would be no powerful will bending person that blind persistence with which men and women believe they have a right to impose a private will upon a fellow creature. A kind intention or a cruel intention may be acting no less a crime if she looks upon it in that brief moment of illumination. And yet she had loved him sometimes. Often she had not. What did it matter? What could love, the unsolved mystery, count for in the face of this possession of self-assertion, which she suddenly recognized as the strongest impulse of her being?
One more line.
Body and soul free, she kept whispering.
Okay, good. Bravo. This all seems straightforward to me. It's a little, the language is kind of complicated. It's not very clear. All these clauses in that blind persistence with which men and women believe they have a right to impose a private will upon a fellow creature. What does that mean, Isla? What's she talking about there?
Oh. It's when your desires come first and you think that your partner, your fellow creature should bend to your will, should do what you think is right.
Yeah, well, we're not talking about men and women believe they have a right to impose will on their fellow creature. What is she talking about? She's talking about her husband, and who's imposing his will on hers, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and a kind intention or a cruel intention doesn't make it any less a crime, right? That whatever your motive is, it's not right. And we're not talking about fellow creatures. We're talking about Mrs. Mallard and Brentley. And Brentley is a 19th century husband who is imposing his will on his wife. What is it? Did she love him? Did she love him? Yeah, sure. She loved him. Right. She loved him. But all that said, she keeps whispering, free body, and soul. Free body and soul. Her body's free, her spirit is free. Ooh. Okay, great. Tanya, how about if you continue? Just the next two paragraphs, please.
Josephine was kneeling before the closed door, with her lips to the keyhole, imploring for admission. Louis, open the door, I begged. Open the door, you will make yourself ill. What are you doing, Louis? For heaven's sake, open the door. Go away, I'm not making myself ill. No. She was drinking in a very elixir of life through that open window.
Okay, good. So what's elixir?
In this context, it's a spirit of the freedom. I don't know.
Yeah, you got it. Good. That's good. And elixir is like a medicine or a
yeah.
Something to drink, and you drink an elixir, right? And what about this? This is keyhole. I think there's a typo. That's a misspelled word.
It's when it's in the door, the place where we can put on a key. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Right.
Yeah.
Now, do we? In our earlier discussion, we have some keyholes like this in my house. Do you have keyholes like this in your house?
Oh.
No? Anyone else?
No.
No?
Don't.
Well, sometimes in older houses, and when she says she put her eye to the keyhole, this is what she's saying.
Yeah.
Huh? That you can see through there, and you can see through the keyhole. You see through the keyhole. We have keyholes like this in my house, not on the main doors, but on some of the inside doors. Okay, she says, "Go away. I am not making myself ill." No, she was drinking in the very elixir of life through that open window. Okay, good. Nadia, how about would you continue?
Fancy was running right along those days ahead of her, spring days and summer days, and all sorts of days that would be her own. She breathed a quick prayer that life might be long. It was only yesterday she had thought with a shudder that life might be long. She rose at length and opened the door to her sister's importunities. There was a very fish triumph in her eyes, and she carried herself unwittingly like a goddess of victory. She clasped her sister's waist, and together they descended the stairs. Richard stood waiting for them at the bottom.
Okay, good. Now let's see. I forgot to mention that finally in this paragraph of here we learned Mrs. Mallard's name. Finally, it's Louise. We finally learned Mrs. Mallard's name, and she arose at night. This is kind of interesting. She breathed a quick prayer that life might be long. It was only yesterday that she thought with a shudder that life might be long. Now she's happy that life is long. Yesterday, with a shudder, with a tremble, she's trembling. She was afraid that life would be long. So the circumstances have changed. Her sister's importunities. Importunity is like an interruption or a demand or an intrusion, something like that. All right. There is a feverish triumph in her eyes. Again, we're talking about her eyes. They were dull earlier. Now there's a triumph in her eyes, and she carried herself unwittingly like a goddess of victory. Look, here's the goddess of victory. I have to tell you, Professor Marston got all these wonderful artworks. So there you have the winged goddess of victory. Is this called Nike? Is that, am I right? Professor Marston, that's sort of, is this Nike? Chili Willy says yes, it's Nike. Okay. The winged.
I only know it in French. It's the La Victoire de Samothrace. And this is in the Louvre Museum in Paris.
In Paris. Tanya says it's in Russian it's Nika. Nika. In English it's Nike. Nike.
Like the shoes.
Yes.
Nike is also a missile, a military. I think it was an anti-ballistic missile. Anti-ballistic missile. Nike. We call it, you know, just like the Russians call this weapon Katyusha. We call our we call our missile Nike. Okay, so Mrs. Mallard, Louise, comes down and Nike is alert and confident and proud and completely in control of her circumstances for the moment. Let's see, who would like to finish the story? I'll take a volunteer. Katya, you're still not reading? Tanya, how about you? Would you finish the story?
Okay. Someone was opening the front door with a latch key. It was Grantland Mallard who entered. A little travel-stained, composedly carrying his rucksack and umbrella. He had been far from the scene of the accident and didn't even know there had been one. He stood amazed at Josephine's piercing cry, at Richard's quick motion to screen him from the view of his wife. When the doctors came, they said she had died of heart disease, of the joy that kills.
Ooh, okay. So, let's see. Tanya, you had a question about grip sack. Did you know what a grip sack is now?
I can just suggest it's something like bag that we take in a travel in.
Right.
But I didn't find it in a dictionary.
Sometimes it's an old word for suitcase. You can call it a grip. A grip. A suitcase or luggage might be called a grip. And sack, I don't know. Maybe it means it was not leather, but maybe it was made out of cloth. Okay, so Mr. Mallard came home. He didn't even know that there was an accident. He missed the train somehow. We don't know how. But he missed the train or was late, so he just came back home. And Josephine, of course, saw him and cried out and died. Travel-stained, Julia, travel-stained. Travel-stained, a little travel-stained. What do you think that means?
Very dirty, no?
Well, yeah, kind of, not very dirty, but kind of dusty, or his clothes were maybe not quite as neat as they were when he left, you know. Like I had the impression that maybe he walked home from the train station. You know, so he came home and you know, like after a trip, the first thing you want to do is to wash your hands and your face. A little dusty. That's what I think that is. Well, good. Now let's see. We have, in the time that we have left, and we have about 15 minutes, and that's plenty of time. Let's talk about this story using the factors that we worked with last time. And Tanya, you had asked you wanted to be assigned form. You take form, Tanya, and you take verisimilitude. Okay, and Julia, would you please do the characters and the conflict? Characters and conflict, all right? And Chilly Willy, how did I miss you? Chilly Willy. I thought, how about if you take the point of view and the setting? And Nadia, Katya, I hate for you to. Nadia, let's take language and tone. Language and tone. That's everyone, huh? And then maybe together we can do time and duration. So, look, Katya, do you think you could do time and duration and put it into the chat? Try that. You know, just let's see if you can do it, and if you can put it into the chat, your thoughts about the time and duration of this story. We'll do that. I'd like you to participate if you can. Okay. Michelle Yakova, пожалуйста. Tanya?
The text divided into several paragraphs. That's what about formal division. But it also can be divided thematically. We can see the first part when the relatives and friends of main heroine prepares to tell her the news about her husband's death, knowing that she has afflicted with heart trouble. The second starts when she already knows it and goes to her room alone, physically exhausted and crying. The part in which her sobbings and suffering are described finishes when she starts to realize all the situation. Her unloved husband with a powerful will bending hers that years and making her feel like she doesn't want to have a long life is dead now, and now she will have a free life for herself. The last part is when she descends the stairs with her sister, and suddenly her husband appears, safe and alive, and she dies of collision with reality. The narration moves and it differs from the beginning. In the end, it's all changed. The situation and its development seems real to me. It's very realistic and can happen with everyone, I guess. I definitely can imagine the existence of the story's characters outside the framework of the story. It's completely possible. The writer created verisimilitude by the clear descriptions of the situation, details of the emotional state of the heroes, even the nature description. That's all definitely real without any fairy tale or something like that.
Right. It's absolutely believable. The only part that's not believable is that they don't have telephones and they're you know the modern conveniences and the yeah. But that right. You know, I like to read detective stories and modern detective stories are one thing, but I like to read detective stories that are dated in time, where the characters say, "Oh, I need to find a telephone." You know, the character says something like that. "Oh, I need to find a telephone," or "I need to go to the library to look up old newspapers." Because today you wouldn't do that. So when I read that, it sounds funny. I think, get your cell, you know, get your cell phone. Okay, good, very good for you. Nicely done, nicely done, nicely done. Yulia, what about the characters? Whoa, So who are the characters in here? Just let's see.
The main characters are Mrs. Mallet and her husband, Mr. Mallet. The minor characters are Richard, the friend, and Josephine. And the main character, Mrs. Mallet, we see her attitude to her husband. And the minor character, Richard, who was shown to us as the man who did not know the truth and came to talk about this, and she didn't know exactly if it happened or not. And the author reveals the characters to the reader using a direct commentary. Yes. What here about conflict too? I mean, no?
Well, who tells the story? Who tells this story?
It's author tells about.
You say that this is. We could say that this is omniscient author. That the narrator knows everything. The narrator even knows. A narrator knows what the externals are, what the weather is like, what the house looks like, but the author also knows what's inside Mrs. Mallard's brain, what's inside her heart, huh?
Yes.
So this is an omniscient. Omniscient means knows everything. Good. Now conflict. What about the conflict? What kind of conflict do we have?
Here we have internal conflict attitude between Mrs. Mallard and her husband. We see that she didn't like her husband, and it's very because when she found out that her husband dead, her words were free, and this conflict, I think, between men and women, it's in our life too, because men live with women and they don't divorce because of children or other for society, and they don't love each other, and it's very bad for them, but they live together and
so
they don't divorce.
Yeah. There's a lot of, you know, you have Anna Karenina and for example, and Tatiana in Yevgeny Onegin. You know, the same kind of, there's all this conflict, and even last week, Minyum Proshatsa, there's a conflict there. This is a very common conflict. It's world. I think it's not peculiar to American culture or Russian culture, and it was particularly the case, I think, in 1894, in the late 19th century, when the roles of men and women were very carefully and very rigidly defined. Good for you. Good for you. I not. Really. Point of view in the setting.
Story is told not by characters, it is told by a narrator. He's not the part of a story. Although the narrator tries to maintain distance, we can see by the use of some adjectives that he is quite affectionate towards the main character, Louise Millard.
Do you think the narrator likes Mrs. Mallard?
Yes, I think she's quite fond of Mrs. Mallard. The narrator is quite fond of Mrs. Mallard.
Yeah. And how about Mr. Mallard? Does the narrator like Mr. Mallard?
I don't think the narrator likes or dislikes Mr. Mallard. He doesn't have any description. He is like It's like a ghost in this story. It's just an obstacle. It's just a path to move the story forward.
Okay, good. And the setting. What about the setting?
Well, mainly the events of the story take place happen in one place. It is Mrs. Mallett's house. Although at the beginning there is a mention of newspaper artists in which family's friend Richard works. The setting is, well, we don't know a lot about the house. We just know it is a house. It has stairs, it has a keyhole, and there's one significant part of the setting is armchair. It is described as roomy and comfortable, and I guess that this chair is very important because, in my opinion, it is narrator's way to comfort Mrs. Mallett and to prepare her to this coming joy that is about to spring upon her.
Now, do you think this house is in the city or the country?
I think the country.
In the country, and you say that why?
Oh no, it's in the city because there was a peddler crying out red. I think it is in the city.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. But it's maybe in a small city because there are a lot of trees around. Remember, she's looking out. She's looking at the tops of the trees, and the birds. There are birds flying around. So maybe it's a small city. I don't know. And we also don't know. And I'm inclined to think it's a small city because Brentley Mallard sounds to me at the end like he walked home from the train station. You know, he said, "Oh, I've missed my train. I just think I'll go home and have another cup of coffee." But so he walked home. It doesn't say anything about how he got there. So good. Okay, it's in the city if there's a peddler. I think that's the consensus. That if there's a peddler, it's probably in the city. Okay, Katya, can you try putting something in the chat about language and tone? Anything? Katya? Oh, Nadia, did you have language and tone?
Yes.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. I'm looking at my notes. Then go ahead and tell us about language and tone, Nadia.
I think language of the story is very difficult to read and difficult to understand. And I think it's quite outdated. I think people in our time wouldn't describe the situation using such words. And there are a lot of adjectives in the story. And in our time, in the stories, there are more active. There are more action and less description. It's difficult to find stories with descriptions of nature or emotions in our time. So I think it's quite outdated.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. I like what you said because I think you're right that this is hard to understand. It's understandable, but it takes some effort. Look at this sentence here, Nadia. Go away, I'm not making myself ill. No, she was drinking in a very elixir of life through that open window, okay?
Yeah.
Now, 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 let's try this. See if you can do this. Rewrite this one sentence in modern English.
She was living a full life, for example.
Go ahead. Say, go away, I'm not making myself ill. That's okay. But how about this part here? No, she was drinking in the very elixir of life through that open window. How about, say that in modern English. Go ahead and try.
Live freely, to live the real life.
Mm-hmm. Or how about something like this? She felt as fresh as the fresh air through that open window. Would you go with that? Does that sound better? It was like fresh air. Her life was like fresh air from an open window.
It's more understandable.
Okay, good. Do you like that? Yeah, I think you're. People don't talk like that. If I said to my wife, "I'm drinking in the very elixir of life through that open window," she'd say, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" She would say,
"Are you okay?"
She would say, "You're not the man I married." She would say, "You're not the man I married." Okay, well, that's good. Well, listen, we're past time, actually. I want to thank you for your very good participation today. Good, solid preparation. I appreciate that. Next week, we're going to do a different story. We're going to do the same thing with a different story, and we'll have that assignment up in a day or two. I think that you will enjoy it a great deal. All right, so on behalf of myself, anyway, thank you for your participation today. Well done. Katya, I hope that you get your sound fixed for next time. Okay.